Hello, my name is Paul Marchbanks, and this is the third entry in a series on fictional dystopias. Today's talk is entitled Romance with Robots, the Slow Hijacking of the Human Imagination. At the tail end of summer 2021, my eldest daughter turned to me and declared, "I am so done with AI." Her impatience with fictional scenarios involving artificial intelligence was admittedly well earned. The girl's introduction to AI had begun over a decade earlier with the benevolent droids of Star Wars, Pixar's Wall-E, and the iconic android Dorothy in the anime Big O. We then confronted hostile robots in the MCU's second Avengers movie, along with James Cameron's two Terminator movies. The latter were required viewing before I would share with our girls the very good, tragically short-lived television series, The Sarah Connor Chronicles. Next up was Season 4 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., with an artificial intelligent digital assistant, Ada, who destroys as much as she creates. Then, the alternately friendly and menacing robots of Netflix's three-season Lost in Space, one of the best family dramas I've ever seen. And finally, the predictive AI system Control, which in Season 2 of Star Trek Discovery attempts to erase humanity throughout the galaxy. In addition to sharing my love of sci-fi action with our kids, I was also attempting to prompt contemplation about some of the potential drawbacks of AI. Once you strip away the fantastic elements of time travel and shape-changing robots, you realize the Terminator storylines have a very plausible concept at their core, something we should all work hard to avoid. It's not difficult to imagine nuclear powers deciding that effective deterrence of hostilities requires placing their armory in the hands of computers that can calculate defensive postures and offensive maneuvers far faster than any human. And what if a system designed to adapt to unforeseen variables and entrusted with the freedom to evolve creative solutions reached a conclusion its designers had thought they made impossible? Could such a computer override safeguards designed to prevent it from turning on its short-sighted creators? Should we be striving to keep human hands on the triggers of our arsenals, even if this means a slower, possibly tardy response to a large-scale attack from a belligerent country? Or is mutually assured destruction preferable to losing? I hope and pray that the Armageddon forecast in such stories never comes to pass. We might just get it right. I'm far less optimistic, however, about our ability or willingness to prevent another technology-infused tragedy, one that's been in motion for quite some time and which will likely grow in the future. We might not end up fighting killer robots we designed ourselves, but every generation to come will wrestle with the ways new technologies continue to transform our attitudes towards romance and sexual intimacy. With every passing year, technology makes it harder to be relationally satisfied with a single flesh and blood individual, and much easier to find a semblance of romantic satisfaction without risking much of anything. There have always been those of us who prefer low-stakes liaisons with the illusion of intimacy to devoted relationships, where the possibility of suffering and loss holds pace with opportunities for genuine love and affection. For centuries, two of the more likely paths to realizing the fantasy of romantic connection without any real commitment were: 1, have an extramarital affair, or 2, patronize a single prostitute repeatedly. Brief hookups and bed-hopping habits don't even pretend to fill this relational need. As John Stuart Mill and Harriet Taylor Mill argued in The Subjection of Women way back in 1869, having lots of sexual partners may grant one familiarity with one narrow department of their nature, but much will remain carefully hidden. If you wanted the illusion of an intimate relationship in the days of yore, you either visited the same brothel or street corner on a regular basis and sought out the same sex worker, or you took a lover on the side and built up a fragile, seductive mirage of true connection generated by furtive communications and secret trysts until, of course, that affiliation began to lose its novelty, requiring yet another transgression in turn to recreate the desired high. The fine arts have long provided aids for sexual and romantic fantasizing. Mary Wollstonecraft maligned novels, music, and poetry alike for making women the creatures of sensation while relaxing the other powers of the mind, priming them, she thought, for titillating but short-lived, often tragic, romantic encounters in the real world. In a letter to his brothers, the poet John Keats decides that Benjamin West's painting Death on the Pale Horse contains, quote, "no women one feels mad to kiss, no face swelling into reality." A reminder that beauty caught in oils on canvas can stir the passions in addition to one's aesthetic sensibilities. In James Joyce's celebrated novel Ulysses, Leopold Bloom's interest in the derrieres of both a woman at the butcher's shop and an immobilized statue of Venus in Ireland's National Museum reminds us that cold marble can be an aid to arousal, if one is so inclined. In Mary Shelley's The Last Man, the final survivor of the human race finds some small comfort in wrapping his arms around a statue of Psyche in a Roman museum and kissing its cold lips. The younger mediums of photography and film supply even more engaging, more dynamic scenarios upon which fantasies can be built. Whether one's reveries involve images of singers, actors, or people we actually know, and whether we fixate on representations captured by visual technology, or generate entirely new situations that tickle our fancy, we invest our attention in a simulacrum of intimacy, artifice, that, indulged in regularly, will necessarily reshape our desires and expectations. Within the fantasy, whether it involves an erotic component or not, our imagination wields an unrealistic, profound ability to shape how others react to our own imagined words and actions. Instead of a two-way exchange with a real person whose changing physiology, emotions, and preferences need to be regularly, sensitively renegotiated, fantasizing provides sustained, hierarchical control of a subject who is as silent and immobile, or as active and engaging as we wish them to be. New technologies mean new ways to construct one's own private fantasy, providing ever greater power to the participant. From open-ended pixelated RPGs like Stardew Valley, in which you can marry and have kids in family-friendly fashion, to photorealistic role-playing video games that allow your curvaceous character to have gratuitous sex, to sophisticated haptic feedback bodysuits that can stimulate parts of your body to create sensuous experiences in virtual reality environments, technology is making it ever easier to fabricate emotional and physical sensations without relational consequences or responsibilities. In George Lucas's first feature film, which I discussed in my last talk, the state apparatus regulating human behavior actively suppresses normal romantic connections. Presumably, the system has decided that real relationships are dangerously unpredictable and a drain on state resources, so they surveil the human population and harshly punish sex crimes, by which they mean actual sexual activity between human beings. In a scene that will make many of your quite squeamish. THX 1138 watches a naked woman dance on screen while a machine manually masturbates him. Apparently, this future society's administrators are not trying to repress the sexual instinct itself, but divert it into artificial channels that generate no messy interpersonal connections. It's similar to what the government encourages in P.D. James's The Children of Men, in an effort to keep the sex drive intact at a time when conceiving children has become impossible. The British government, in the novel, provides state-funded porn shops to, quote, keep the body occupied and the mind quiescent. The active, individual mind is almost always feared by the totalitarian state in dystopic fiction, states determined to use technology to curtail and control intimate expression. While citizens in developed and democratic nations might agree that governments shouldn't use technology to stifle independent thought and romantic impulses, we aren't hesitating to adopt innovations in hardware and software that facilitate the slow transformation and, I would argue, distortion of natural romantic inclinations. And some of us welcome the change. One of my students last quarter told me in a serious and utterly unafraid voice that we will eventually fall in love with artificial intelligence. Maybe it's easier for him to embrace this possibility because his girlfriend is currently on the other side of the world. Their regular interactions already take place in a virtual space. His declaration may shock some of us, at least I hope it does, but I think we can all understand the attraction of a lifelike artificial personality that only tells us affirming things, one programmed to be endlessly patient and kind, to never envy our relational ties to others, nor boast about its own superior qualities, one which will always know accurate answers to our questions and is willing to stand by us through thick and thin. Such an AI, that is, might appear to efficiently, reliably master that popular definition of love recited at many a wedding ceremony, which Paul of Tarsus provides in his first letter to the church at Corinth. In fact, who needs those old wedding vows which promise fidelity for better or for worse, for richer or for poor, in sickness and in health, when we can seek comfort in digital arms which face none of these challenges? Eventually, to be complemented by actual arms and the rest of an android body with mass and density, a being of sorts who will never challenge us with their own troubles, unless, of course, we program it to do so. You may be thinking, artificial intelligence and android bodies will never be able to fully replicate all the nuances of human interaction, the interplay of rapidly shifting emotions and all the tactile responses we expect from human touch. You may be right, but does it matter? Soon enough, we'll be able to achieve convincing approximations, AI that can pass the Turing test, and humans have always used their imaginations to complete other people, to fill in the gaps between what we do know with educated guesses. We make assumptions about another's preferences in brand new situations, anticipate desirable or undesirable responses to questions we've not yet asked, and imagine likely backstories to build upon the little we do know about someone's past. If more of us begin to have relationships with artificial intelligence, some already have, we will engage our imaginations in similar ways to smooth over apparent hiccups in the programming, because it will be so much easier than taking the risks required when fraternizing with a real romantic partner. Every few weeks, I see yet another article in the New York Times about younger people retreating from the diciness of dating because afraid of being misunderstood or rejected. Many seek solace in porn, oblivious to how its reshaping of expectation makes it even more difficult to have a healthy relationship with an actual human being. The fact that for decades, film and television producers have hired conventionally attractive, contoured actors to play robots telegraphs our true motivation. Can't we, please, have easy access to what we consider a sexual ideal right now without having to work for it? What do you think? Should we join those who welcome artificial intelligence as a viable romantic alternative to human connection, or resist the slow but accelerating transformation of our desires?